Hey guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to another Satanic Panic video. And this time I would like to present this. Now this is a 1982 movie based on the novel by Rona Jaffe of the same name. And the whole story is fictional, although it's very vaguely based on the story of James Dallas Egbert III. And the novel about that, or the story about that, Dungeon Master by William Dear, the detective who looked for him. Now, we've gone over that before. James Dallas Egbert III was a young man who went to university at a very young age, younger than typical, and the stress of that and being an overachiever and the coming to terms with the fact that he was homosexual led to him running away for a while. But when a detective was called in to investigate, he found Dungeons & Dragons books in his rooms, and one of the theories was that he'd disappeared in a live-action roleplay in the steam tunnels beneath the university. And that's the part which this movie is based about. It's based about a university student who is suffering from mental health problems, and they think that he's disappeared into the caves nearby to the university. Now, the film is remarkable because it's a very early performance from Tom Hanks, the multiple Oscar winner that he is now. But this is when he was a young man, young enough to portray a university student, and he wasn't a name at the time. This is just a very early work of his that I guess he's probably pretty embarrassed about now.
You've grown.
I'm not growing anymore. This is it.
Well, you have an IQ of 190. I don't suppose it matters if you're that tall.
So the movie's about four characters, and the first up we're introduced to JJ. Now JJ is the crazy hat guy, because as you can see he wears a succession of weird hats, starting off with that German hat, but he wears other ones throughout the film. And he's got an overly possessive mother.
Oh no. What have you done? It looks like a hospital!
Don't scream at me. I worked my tail off to get this finished in time.
Where's all my stuff? My furniture?
I can tell you don't like it.
So if you were to suspect anybody's going to go a bit crazy during this movie, it's probably JJ, because he's got the whole hat thing going on and his mum just likes to throw all his stuff out and redecorate his room. So there's a lot going on there. Plus we'll see a lot of other stuff as the movie goes on, and he looks like he would be the main character in a movie about somebody going a bit mentally unstable. But that's misdirection.
Mom, when Dad left us, were you ever sorry you married him in the first place?
And next up we've got Kate. Well, Kate's major personality trait is that she has a succession of broken up relationships. She can't really stay with one guy. And that seems to be connected to her mother, because obviously, as mentioned there, her mum and dad are divorced. But as personalities go, she really doesn't have much of one. She is mainly there to stop it being a complete sausage fest.
I have seen students in my class, and I have seen you. You have a special gift for computers. You've always had that.
What I really love is to make up games for computers.
There's nothing wrong with that. You can do it as a hobby.
And next up we've got Daniel. Now Daniel is smart, he's good looking, and his parents want him to go into software development. But he's far more into gaming. He wants to go into that, where his parents are pressuring him to go into a more commercial route. Now of course in 2023 we know that getting into gaming would have made him far more money than just ordinary software development, but we'll forgive that. In 1982 they never knew. Now Daniel's a bit boring, but he's the sort of stable member of the group, by which we can see how odd all these other gamers are.
Robbie, you're starting new at Grant, all new. That means no more games. You know what it did to your marks at Tufts. This time you're going to concentrate on your schoolwork, do you hear?
Yeah, I know, Dad, I will.
I see another D, you don't see another check.
Oh, Hull, leave him alone.
And you've had too much to drink, again.
Threats and accusations, that's all you know.
And the last of the four is Robbie, played by a very young Tom Hanks. Now Robbie seems to be a fairly ordinary student. He seems to be fairly smart because he's been accepted by multiple universities, because he got kicked out of his first choice one, because he was missing classes because he was playing too much Mazes and Monsters. He's also got a lot going on at home. His dad is obviously putting him under quite a lot of pressure. And his mum appears to be an alcoholic, or is according to the father, it seems. But as we go on further with the character, we discover that there's a lot more going on. Robbie had an older brother who disappeared about a year before, just left the house one night and never returned. And that's put a lot of stress on the family, perhaps why the mother's drinking, and why Robbie was finding it difficult to concentrate at university. But nobody seems to deal with that. His brother disappeared, oh well, everybody get on with your life.
Hi, I'm J.J. Brockway.
Yeah, hi. My name's Robbie.
Listen, you play Mazes and Monsters? That's my sign there.
Yeah, J.J. Brockway. I used to, but I don't anymore.
Oh, that's too bad. We really need a fourth player.
Well, sorry.
So Robbie spots in the cafeteria that there's a poster up advertising Mazes and Monsters. JJ kind of jumps on that because they're desperate for a fourth player for their group. And Robbie refuses, saying that he doesn't play it anymore. But JJ pressures him to go to a party that night where the group put additional pressure on him. And he eventually decides to join because he doesn't really know anybody else at the university. And he suddenly has now a group of friends.
Oh, I was into some extracurricular activities. I played a game called Mazes and Monsters a little too much.
You're kidding. What level?
Ninth level.
So am I. Daniel, I want you to meet Daniel. Daniel, meet Robbie.
Well,
He's level 9.
Hey, you gonna play with us?
Well, no, I can't. My folks.
Hey, we're not fanatics.
Well, how often do you play?
Oh, a couple times a week.
No, I really have to crack the books.
JJ,
Really?
come
No,
here,
seriously.
Well,
I mean,
level 9.
Level 9? You didn't tell me that. Oh, well, sign him up.
So Robbie starts playing with the group.
Your fate is in my hands.
I'm Glacia the fighter. I have great strength and courage, strong armor, many weapons, and I've won the mighty talking sword of Lothia.
I am Freelick, the frenetic of Glossamere, the cleverest of all sprites. Not so strong, with enough tricks and powers to take me far and keep me safe.
I am Pardieu, a holy man. In reaching the 9th level, I have acquired many magic spells and charms, the greatest of which is the graven eye of Timur. But I also have a sword, which I only use should my magic fail me.
And then we get a montage of time passing. Robbie still seems to be doing well at his studies, but they're enjoying the game as well. But beyond that, he's starting to develop a relationship with Kate. They're spending a lot of time together and spending nights over at one another's student accommodations. So much so that JJ starts to feel excluded from the group because his friends have a life outside the game and outside his connection now.
Maybe I should smash my motorbike into the dorm wall. It's too ordinary. They think it was just an accident. You know that no Grant University student has ever committed suicide?
So JJ starts to plan his suicide. What can he do dramatic that people will remember? And he decides to go into the caverns near to the university, and he will kill himself down there. This will become a legend. But upon visiting the caverns, he thinks that, wait a second, this is going to be an absolutely great place to game in. And he tries to suggest this to his fellow gamers, but they're not really into the idea. Until he suicides his character during one session, and they have to start a new campaign to accommodate his new character, and he wants the Games Master, and he selects the caverns to Games Master in.
JJ, where did you get these costumes?
From the theater arts department.
So they set off in full LARPing gear, dressed up as their characters to go to the caverns and game. Now, at this point, it appears that JJ is probably the one who goes through problems. He's been planning suicide, he's got the silly hats, he's got everything at home. He looks like the James Dallas Egbert character. He's a young guy who's going through a lot of pressure. But no, it's not. It's Robbie. While they're in the caves, Robbie sees the game come to life around him.
A monster! A monster! A monster! Agorville! 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 Agorville!
Now, none of his friends can see anything, so they decide to abandon the game because somebody's having a freak out, and they head back. But Robbie can't seem to break out of his character. He seems to be still thinking of himself as his holy man character. And this carries on, so even though they go back to university, he's now skipping classes, and he ends up breaking up with Kate because a holy man shouldn't have any distractions from his religion. Now, when we reach the anniversary of his brother's disappearance, Robbie goes disappearing as well. So the other players contact the police.
Robbie's a terrific guy. Everyone likes him.
When you last saw him, was he depressed or moody? Anything out of the ordinary?
I don't think I've ever seen Robbie depressed. He's a very peaceful guy, into spiritual things.
Like mazes and monsters?
You mean the game?
We know he played. We found a map in his room. You play?
So the police interview each of the 3 remaining players.
Yes, Robbie was getting peculiar. It was like the game was becoming his whole life, and sometimes he was more interested in it than me. So we broke up.
You and Kate Finch go together now?
Yes, sir.
And you're still friendly with Robbie?
Oh, sure. I didn't take her away from him. They were all over with when I came along.
And we discover that Kate and Daniel are now dating. Since Robbie and her broke up, they've remained very close and they're going out with each other. Although Robbie seemed to be all right about it, but he was stuck in his Pardue holy man personality. And it's at this point the police reveal exactly what they think happened.
What do you guys think happened?
One of the players Robbie played with got carried away and killed him.
Well, that's kind of far out.
Mazes and Monsters is a far-out game. Swords, poison, spells, battles, maiming, killing.
Hey, it's all imagination.
Is it?
Meanwhile, Robbie is headed to New York, where it was revealed he thought his brother had run away to. And while he's wandering the streets, somewhat confused and looking a little bit out of it, he is attacked by 2 muggers, which he flees from.
What is that? Give me that.
These are my spells. I guard them with my life. No!
But they catch up to him down a back alley. Now, stabbing and potentially killing a mugger is enough to snap Robbie out of his fugue state. So he heads to a payphone and he calls Kate. And he reveals that he's in the city and that he's perhaps killed someone. But he hangs up, once again entering his personality as Pardue, the holy man. His friends now know he's in New York, so they head there. And once they're in the city, they have no further ideas. But they realise that amongst the campaign stuff that the police found in Robbie's rooms was a map of the 2 towers. Now, while this is obviously a Tolkien reference, they realise that in his bemused state, Robbie has probably thought of the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center. So they head there, and they confront him on the roof.
Maze control?
Yes. And I have absolute authority in this game.
Game?
Game.
Hey.
JJ, what am I doing here?
Multiple Oscar-winning Tom Hanks there. Now, while it looks somewhat hopeful there that he seems to have shrugged off the fugue state and he realises where he is, there is a coda to the story which is far more depressing.
Glacia, has someone placed a spell of forgetfulness on you? I am Pardue, the holy man. I've had many strange encounters since last we met. A great dragon, a Gorville.
And so they discover that Robbie's stuck as Pardue, unable to find his original personality once more. So the group of friends decide to go on one last adventure with him, wandering around the countryside, pretending there's monsters that only Pardue can see.
And so we played the game again, for one last time. It didn't matter that there were no maps, or dice, or no monsters. Pardue saw the monsters. We did not. We saw nothing but the death of hope and the loss of our friend. And so we played the game until the sun began to set, and all the monsters were dead.
The end. So that was Mazes and Monsters. And while it pretends to be a film about role-playing, that's just one small element of it. That's where the kids manage to get some of their stress out, and it obviously leads to where Robbie's collapse happens. But the causes of Robbie's mental collapse seems to be set up earlier. But the disappearance of his brother, the collapse of his family with his mother becoming alcoholic, and his dad putting all of the stress onto Robbie. And we also get that through JJ, who has a terrible home life, is put under lots of stress because he is younger than the others. He's very much the James Dallas Egbert III character, that he's young, perhaps too young for university. But his home life's terrible, and he threatens suicide. That's where the live role-playing element comes into it, because he wants a new output for it. He wants to connect with his friends, because he is terribly, terribly lonely. Now, this is not a criticism of role-playing at all. This seems to be a criticism of how we deal with mental health in young people. That's where everything goes wrong in this movie, even if the author didn't plan it that way. The author was definitely aiming towards criticizing role-playing games without understanding them at all. But anyway, it's been fun to watch it. It's been fun to criticize it. It's been fun to see Tom Hanks turning it up to 11 with some really outrageous acting. He obviously learnt a lot of talents before he won his Oscars. But anyway, I think I've whittled on for quite long enough. So thank you very much for watching, as always. But most of all, you look after yourselves, and I'll catch you later. Bye now.